Good afternoon. My name is Suhail Faruqi. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of K-12 Insight, and I will go ahead and call it as 2:02 Eastern Time, so we should get started just to respect the people who've joined. I want to welcome you all and express my gratitude for taking the time. I suspect no one had any shortage of things to do, and so thank you for joining. And I'm just delighted and honored to be joined by Zach Lynn, who is an emerging leader, um, a veteran in the IT field, and really overall district leadership out of Ithaca, New York, where I think it may still be snowing one of these days. So, Zach, thank you for joining me. And we have a couple of slides in which we're going to cover a range of topics largely focused around Let's Talk. So in today's webinar, if you're joining, then you have some experience with working with partnering with K-12 Insight. You have experience using the Let's Talk platform, either directly or indirectly. And so we'll sort of do the big picture first, which is a couple of slides that I'll cover. Zach, in his role as the Chief of Technology in Ithaca City, New York, School District in New York, has had a close view and has been the leader watching the implementation over the last several years. And I think at the end of it, really will show you what you really came for, which is to see the additions that have been made into the Let's Talk platform. So I'll just zip through this as quickly as I can to give maximum time. We want to be really this is a flavor conversation. I'm hoping to have a conversation between you, the participants, and Zach as a district leader, and then for Lynn's demo, and hopefully a rich conversation at the end of that. So Sharon's helping me with the slides, so I'm just going to ask her to keep this moving. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, yes. So really, for a minute, right, if you have Let's Talk and for those of us who've ever wondered and said, remind me again, what do we do with Let's Talk? I wanted to visit the question of the why. And really, Let's Talk is merely the platform, the solution, the tool around which a school district embarks on and continues its journey to acquire customer service excellence as a practice. So, as I was putting this together, I remembered one of my early presentations on customer service excellence in a school district not too far from where I live in Northern Virginia. And a board member who had seen the topic on the board agenda, this was at a board meeting, objected to the board chair that I was even presenting. His contention was that I must be in the wrong room, or he must be in the wrong room, because he said, we're a school district. We do not have customers. And so he questioned why and whether we should really be using the language around customer service. And I think to me instantly, it spoke of this, if you will, this blind spot that some in public education at that point had. There was a monopoly for 200 years. And when you have a monopoly, you don't have to think of gaining kids or losing kids, because if you gave me a zip +4 25, 30 years ago, for any household, we could pretty much tell you the elementary, middle, and high school in which a child in that home would attend. So you were guaranteed your customers. I think in nearly 80, 90% of the country now, I think that's no longer true. More and more people have school choice. I think the only one thing on which all political parties seem to agree on is that more school choice is better. So I think that show is coming to a school near you. And so why should schools therefore focus on customer service is just a matter of the fact that we're no longer in the 20th century. So go back to the previous slide for a second, Sharon. I think as difficult as wrapping your head around customer service may be, I think the issue becomes even harder in 2025 as you look at the 2026 school year. ESSER money is gone, easy funds are gone, and really the headlines out of Washington, D.C. are not encouraging to any head of a chief of finance in any school district or any superintendent, any board. I think the news is often discouraging, and I think everybody's worried about, should we be spending any money in this area? So I just wanted to first point out that there's an ROI case for customer service in schools. ROI here, I don't want to assume everybody knows every acronym I'm going to use. The return on investment. For a dollar, but what do I get? Is this a sunk cost, or is this something that gives me something back? So I just wanted to put a few ideas here in case you hadn't thought of it, or in case you have to put this in front, you have to ever defend the customer service investment a school district is making, and really just for broader clarity. So on the next slide, there are 3 reasons for investing in a customer service excellence journey. And they all have dollars tied to them. The first one is operational efficiency. More and more work that is done manually is going to be done through automation of processes. Think of all the key service processes that you have, and figure out if you can do it with fewer minutes and sometimes hours, using a person. And I think there's an excellent study that I'll share with you in the next slide here, but operational efficiency is, stay on the same slide, please. Operational efficiency is a key tenet of what you want to look at in terms of your ROI. The second reason, I'll just go clockwise from there, is, as I said, that school districts will have to earn every child that comes to attend. And I think that's the case of defending the students you have and winning more for your market share. I'll tell you that there is an emerging body of evidence. There's a professor out of Rice University in the Houston area who's done a lot of studies on this. And we've seen with many of our school districts that have taken a very high quality intentional journey that they're able to win students back even after they lost them. And you can do the math. Every child has a halo of dollars. If in New York State, it's in the 20s and 30s of thousands of dollars. In other parts of the country, a lot lower. But if the reverse is also true, if you lose a child, then those dollars do walk out of your school district. And the antidote is customer service, believe it or not. Sometimes that may seem like a no-brainer. In other cases, it may be a little non-intuitive, and we'll share with you as to how you can see the evidence for that. And to round off the triangle, in the absence of a rigorous customer service program, we believe that the anecdotal stories of how somebody wasn't treated right, they did not get a return call, or something wasn't done for them in a timely manner, those stories, often the most negative, the most gone bad stories, tend to reach board members. And anecdotally, it creates friction between the board and its perception of the cabinet and the district leadership, and it trickles down. And that is fully avoidable. You no longer need to suffer the tyranny of the anecdotal stuff. And I say, you can say, well, that's not my CFO issue. It may not be fiscal dollars. It's not fiscal currency, but it's trust currency. And I would say the only thing more expensive than financial dollars, I think, are trust dollars. So in a sense, those 3 items for the return on investment for why rigor in customer service pays, it pays to invest in it, is something that I'd love to just produce. And so we can go to the next slide now, right? Let's just get to something that would make sense to the average chief business officer or CFO, which is to say, can you go give me the benefit cost ratio? And benefit cost ratio is a CFO term that is essentially what I said earlier, which is if I put $1 in, what am I going to get in return for it? So I'm just pleased to share this study. This is over a year-old study, a year and a half. One of our partner districts in Florida, Pasco County, they essentially took a very rigorous approach to all the ways in which they had implemented Let's Talk and how it was saving just the staff time and process and motions that were unnecessary as a result of having a rigorous tool to capture across the entire district all of the interactions inbound from parents, teachers, and staff, sometimes students as well. And I think there's a link to the study. You can download it. You can see it. But I'll tell you that their VCR was 1.68. Simply put, for every dollar you invest in, you get $1.68 back. Now, I'm proud of our partnership with Pasco County. This study was done in an early phase of their implementation. I will tell you that if you were to revisit this study with the maturity that they've gained in the last 2 years nearly, I think this number would be much higher. And so, you can expect a 3 to 4x return when you implement Let's Talk with fidelity. When your CSM calls you and says, I want you to show something, it's typically not to increase your work, but it's to decrease your work and across the entire school district. So I would just posit that as something hopefully that adds value to your understanding of the work when done right. We'll go to the next slide, please. So with the fiscal crisis, I think we're clearly seeing 2 lanes emerge, right? Going into the 2025-26 school years, school districts are either proudly saying right? They're those that are turning sort of on that track that says, because I have economic uncertainties, because my budget is going to be harder, because I'm going to have to lay some teachers off or not backfill roles, because I know that it's going to create more of stress in my relationships with my stakeholders. So I need more customer service. So it's a because of case. And I think, the way I like to say it is the devil is going to whisper in your ears, can you cut such certain programs? And so if you resist that, then you're thinking of it despite the economic uncertainties. I clearly believe that when you understand the ROI case, and when you can bring rigor to the implementation, it is a because of case. Like Let's Talk is going to help carry you, the superintendent, board members, the cabinet, through difficult times without all of the stuff that's going to create more work and potentially more stress. And I would say net even more dollars spent in piecemeal activities that you have to do in order to patch for the things that go wrong, things that go bad. So just wanted to throw that out there as well. Next slide, please. So if you wanted to take a scan of this, and if you get a copy of this presentation, there's a link behind that text. Essentially, service excellence, as I'm saying, is something that people in technology should take to their CFO and to their superintendent, right? There's a blog that we've written, everything that I just referenced, the Pasco study, the Rice University study, is all referenced there. You can take a picture of this and just have this blog with all of the links in your mobile device. I'm hoping this is helpful. Sharon, we can go to the next slide, please. So now come to the subject of the webinar this afternoon. You've used Let's Talk. The question can be asked, why expand Let's Talk? And really where we're going is the idea that the entirety of a school district can use just one service desk instead of having multiple solutions across different departments, right? So on the next slide, I'll show you really the scenario that exists in the average school district is various departments use tools to collect feedback, data from various stakeholders. The one department that's called out here that typically is much more advanced in its tech stack is technology, because in technology, you're using some form of ticketing solution. In other departments, they may not be using a ticketing solution. They may be using an email address, which, by the way, sometimes works and sometimes it creates more work because it gets lost. People show up at board meetings and you don't have a record of it, et cetera. But I would say HR departments all provide customer service. I suspect every transportation department is ready for the scenario where the parent is standing at a bus stop and the bus is late, maybe a second or a third time in the week, and that parent gets frustrated. Federal workers are having to go back to the office now, but there was a time everybody was going to the office. So, you can't take late buses every morning. That's when the parent gets frustrated. They go to the website, they look for a number to call. Then they end up getting a voicemail because it's too early in the morning. School's not open. They only know their child's school's number. These motions are all going on. And some transportation departments that have ticketing solution. So without the IT field, and possibly a second exception would be the facilities department where work order forms or some system for work orders has been in place. Formal customer service may or may not have existed in your school district. Let's Talk was your way of bringing that in. We are proud to have had that partnership to say, hey, think of customer service in the same way that IT is thought about. But, IT solution, as we looked at it, really also needed, on the next slide as you go, is an integration with asset management. So that when a teacher says, my computer's broken, you can have 3 or 4 steps before you find out the history of that computer, both repair history, procurement history. It makes no sense to spend $400 repairing a device when the residual total value of that device is $200. Somebody would have to do all of that stuff manually. And in a good situation, if you had a good asset management system, some of that data could be at your fingertips when a teacher said, my computer's broken. And Zach, I suspect you and your team have been doing that kind of work. But we kind of felt like we stayed out of the IT help desk lane in our first phase of our growth, mostly because we felt that there were solutions that already existed at the time that we built Let's Talk. Well, of course, as we are servicing school districts, I meet with people like Zach and many of you who are in attendance here. On the next slide, I'll share with you, we learned that school districts had different types of IT service management solution. And they largely fell into what I would broadly say was the Goldilocks dilemma. There were school districts that were using very light ticketing tools, which kind of gave some convenience, but they were just too small in a Goldilocks sense. They did not, if they had ticketing functionality, they didn't give you a dashboard. If they give you a dashboard functionality, they didn't give you a critical alert where something went wrong. You'd be notified before this became a big headline. And it certainly did not do workflows. If it did workflows, they were very simple workflows. It didn't really provide a 2025 level worth of efficiency to your staff. Your way of getting work done faster was to add more people, which is going to be a harder option moving forward. Your option to do that was to delay your SLA. So to tell people it would take longer, which is not going to be acceptable. I think this old adage of do more with less is going to, and particularly do more with fewer people, is definitely going to be the chant of the future. Those solutions did not meet that criteria of what people needed. And then we talked to other school districts that had procured solutions that certainly had the capability, but they were designed largely for the commercial sector. And they were designed for corporations. They were too large in a Goldilocks sense. The cost of ownership was not just a software license, but being able to flexibly modify the solution for what you needed was just too high, and the affordability was therefore a challenge. One CIO said to me, and I promise you, this was not a CIO of a 10 or 20 or even a 30, 50, 100,000 student district, multi-hundred thousand students, one of the 3 or 4 largest school districts in the country, said to me, they were using one of these very high-end commercial systems, certainly not cheap. The total cost of ownership was very high, but he said 70% of what is on my screen is of no value to me. It's built for somebody else. I don't need it. I know what I need. It's not been designed for us. So our survey in the last 3 years in talking to CIOs, and particularly CIOs were more open to that conversation because the landscape had changed with the one-to-one computing in the post-pandemic era. So all of that led us to sort of envision what districts needed, which is covered in this next slide, for really where all of this is going. The 21st century service management in schools, really, I'll start at the bottom left and I'll just walk you through it, right? This is not a disconnected person's vision. We work with hundreds of school districts around the country. My team, our team spends a lot of time talking to leaders like you all. And what we've learned, we've culled it into these just 4 boxes with the 5th add-on, right? So the 4 boxes are people are going to expect an always-on service. It's going to have a backbone that is generative AI driven. It's going to have workflows and automations in it. It's going to be agentic. I need to know without waiting tomorrow. My family's sitting down around the table on a weekend planning spring break, and somebody says, wait, when is spring break? They don't want to wait till, and they certainly don't want to go to your website and search for it from one page to the next to look at the calendar. Is it there? Is it not there? They want to go to a simple text box that says, when is spring break? Get an answer. So that's one thing. Then the service needs to be personalized. And the personalized service essentially says, if I'm standing at the bus stop and I call you, I need it to be fast. I need you to, right? You don't need to interview me for 5 minutes before you can answer, whether the bus route is running late today or not. So highly personalized, which means it's going to require data integration and identity management, even for parents, because parents are now asking for even tech support on the IT platforms. I've just thrown in 2 phrases with the word enterprise in it, enterprise-wide and enterprise-grade. Again, those are IT terms. I'm sure you've run into them. The enterprise-wide says you need one unified solution for the entire enterprise, because your CFO is going to say, why are you using 2, 3, sometimes 4 different solutions that are in adjacent lanes? We just did a call, Lynn and I, last week with a school district in Texas that had come to that same realization. And there's definitely dollar savings. There is implementation time. There's management of the platform, those savings. And we say it needs to be enterprise grade. And what I mean by enterprise grade is, you need 24/7 availability, high reliability, security, obviously, which is the #1 solution for IT leaders in every school district. Now, you can get those 4 from commercial sectors, but what you won't have is the ease of use, ease of deployment, ease of managing it, training it, and growing it. I'll give you an example of growth. Roughly a month and a half back, when the executive order came out regarding migration from Washington, from the White House, a lot of school districts, particularly our urban systems, immediately had a need to provide their parents, principals, staff members, including teachers, a place to send their questions regarding rumors they may be hearing and what applies and what doesn't apply. And in the absence of a system, emails will start to fly. You will hear one story here, you may catch something, you may miss others. A solution like Let's Talk allows you to very quickly add a link to executive order and centralize it. It's coming into one place. As as the IT leader, you can go and bring that solution to the leadership. And that way the superintendent, the board are on one page. They know 31 people contacted about the executive order. And you now can see the range of questions so that lawyers can sit down and compose FAQ based on really what's coming in, as opposed to what you may share by chance. It was executive order 6 weeks ago. It may be something else, something new next. When you look at all of those requirements for what you need in a school district, we would say that you need a flexible, easy to use solution that meets the needs of school districts. And really, that is what we've done relative to Let's Talk, and adding the extensions for the IT service management and IT asset management is in the quest. That's our work, largely based on the feedback we received, that would be a welcome addition to the suite of products that is included in Let's Talk. So let's go to the next slide, please. And I'll turn this over to Zach.
Well, first, thanks for having me, Suhail. It's always fun to work with you all, and I know we're going to talk about it, but I've really appreciated our collaborative relationship as we've sort of developed our tools. One of the things to know about, for us at Ithaca City School District is, I've been in the technology leadership role or leading the different technology teams in Ithaca for probably since I started in the technology department there in probably 2014 or so. And one of the important things is, to us, it's the idea of all of our teachers and all of our students and all of our spaces, they're there for teaching and learning. Myself, I was a classroom teacher for 9 years. And actually what they don't want to worry about is technology. There's a whole bunch of other things they don't want to worry about. They don't want to worry about paychecks. They don't want to worry about leaky faucets, broken light bulbs. But they don't want to worry about any of those things because their job is to teach and our students are there to learn. And so for us, what we've really tried to centralize our sort of ethos within technology and now human resources, which I'll talk a little bit about later, is the idea that the teaching and learning has to be front and center, and any thought and brain power spent thinking about like the peripheral concerns of what's going on in our education system is essentially time lost that could be focused on instruction, could be focused on calling a family, right? We want our teachers to be able to not worry about why their computer's not working. We want them to be able to send that note to a family about how great their kid did on a math test. So ultimately for us, over the last several years, we've really focused on making that teaching and learning as easy as possible. So Hill was talking a lot about that customer service model. That's how that manifests for us in Ithaca City School District. And for us, that's as we bring new folks into our technology department, that's sort of the backbone of what people learn. In fact, side tangent, when I'm hiring folks, we have all our hiring rules and regulations, but what I'm looking for is like, what's your customer service skill set? Can I send you into a classroom with a really frustrated kindergarten teacher because some iPad's not working and she has a lesson that needs to get going? And can you help them and not get frustrated? That's what I'm looking for. So for us, that's really important. And then the piece where Let's Talk comes in is we've really been able, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes here, but like we've been able to pair up the systems within Let's Talk with our technology systems to make that work at a high level. So ultimately what that means in our day-to-day work is that our folks show up with the idea that they're going to take as many things off the table in terms of concerns for our teachers, our administrators, our families, our students on any given day, so the folks that are showing up to teach and learn can focus on teaching and learning. Can you jump to the next slide there? Um, so this sort of leads us to, and Sahil, if you have any clarifying questions as we go through this, please jump in. But this leads us to, what have we been focusing on? Well, in, I believe, 2013, and this is actually on the next slide, so we can go ahead to that. In 2013, we actually started with Let's Talk, and we used it as our community listening tool. And at all of our board meetings, we'd really push, hey, if you have a concern, you have a question, put it into Let's Talk. And for us, that little pink area, which all of us lived in through together, forced us to really think about how we meet the needs of folks. In the sort of pre-COVID era, we could have a lot of personal relationships. You had to give someone a call, you show up in their classroom. We could get a lot of our technology needs met that way. And we had a legacy tool that had all of our ticket data in it. And what we found, particularly, for us, the catalyst with COVID, but what we were finding is that we were getting tickets that had like splashover impact, meaning a family might have a question about an assignment and a question about their Chromebook, right? And we're getting these questions, and it was really tough to think about, like, all right, how can we answer this in our ticket system from a family? Traditionally, our ticket system had been tied to, rooms and school buildings and devices, and very sort of like, it was not dynamic, it was very static. So for us in 2020 and then into 2021, we started looking at, all right, what is it that we need in a ticket system? At the same time, we want to be conscientious. We don't, one of my adages when we think about our customer service is our teachers don't want more tools. There's very few teachers that say, hey, what I'm struggling with is I don't have enough different educational technology tools. Usually what they're saying is they want things tight, they want them streamlined, they want them easy. So for us, the idea, and I believe Suhail and I started talking in 2020, 2021 range about what would it look like if the technology ticketing system lived in Let's Talk. So we sort of mocked out some different workflows. We started talking behind the scenes. And then ultimately, we made that sort of leap of faith jump to just pivot everything over into Let's Talk. So for us, over the last, since 2021, I was just checking, every year, we've added more and more things to our Let's Talk instance. More, not only our IT ticketing backbone, but it's become sort of central to almost all of our operations in terms of what it is we're doing. Everything from, student enrollment, we're using it for all sorts of, every sort of question, we're routing them to different principals. We've really expanded it, but back to the Let's Talk and IT part, the key catalyst for us were, being able to identify who those users were that needed help, being able to create workflows that routed our tickets to the right people in a timely manner, being able to have a conversation, having our Let's Talk instance be searchable, being able to pull out data about customer support. These were all things we had been doing in our previous system. So we had these, and then Let's Talk gave us a few wrinkles to go beyond that. I think we can jump forward to the next one. So, ultimately for us, it comes back to this idea of customer service. Do we have a model where we can get folks the information they need, assign a ticket to the person in a timely fashion, and get to a resolution as quickly as possible? So for us at this time, I want to say we have a lot of different nuanced workflows within our technology department, mostly based on conditional formatting. If within this building, then go to this person, or if this type of request, it goes to this type of person. And what that's allowed us to do, back to this idea of return on investment and efficiency, is less time sort of like sorting data and information, and more time actually like getting right to the task or making sure something's solved. A good example of that might be when I don't know if you can see on this slide, but it's new student devices. When a new student comes in, we have an automated ticket flow that goes into Let's Talk, where our IT staff is notified of who the student is, where they are, what their email address is, all the key pieces of details, so that we don't have to have a 5-person email chain about, wait, what's the person's name? Are you sure that's spelled correctly? Whose class are they going to be in tomorrow? We have all that data, and that's something that Suhail and I have talked about in the past, is the idea that like this data already lives within our systems, and for us to just find ways to have it appear in the right place in Let's Talk, that's the solution. For us, we're pulling data from our SIS, we're pulling data from our any sort of attendance systems, grading systems, and we can kind of connect it all quickly. So for us, what it means is when a new student comes in, it's not like the new student shows up, we have to back and forth, and then they get their device a week and a half later. They show up, they're getting a device within a day usually, because we're able to sort of automate that workflow and make sure that it works. We can jump ahead to the next slide now. So for us, about, I guess it was a year ago, right, Suhail? We started a series of sort of like workflows and project analysis with your team on like, all right, this has been working fairly well, our Let's Talk IT system. Like, what would it take to take this to the next level? Like, what does it mean to, solve our problems proactively, connect more pieces of data, make sure that sort of everything's tight, make sure everything moves in the way that it needs to move. And what that meant is that it wasn't just me. It was me. Honestly, a lot of the leadership on the technology side is just actually getting out of the way of the folks that it can be, and allowing folks to use their imagination to problem solve. So it was me along with our tech team meeting with the Let's Talk team, and it was designing a whole series of workflows. So on the next slide is a good example. On one of my other hats in our district is running HR. And as part of HR, we didn't have a system either. So actually all of our HR system, we have an HR ticket system living in Let's Talk now. So if you have a question about a W-2, you can send it in. Like we're doing the same model in HR. But a good example of workflows that we started to develop were every time someone's hired, there's actually like 7, 8 discrete things that need to happen every single time, but they're always going to be different, right? So in this case, you can see it's account creation, badges, assigning software licenses within our different systems, giving them proper network and printing access, getting a device, getting device permission. And so now what we have is on our HR side, we've integrated HR and technology in Let's Talk. On our HR side, our HR staff members use our HRIS system, hire someone in, and then immediately put in a ticket into Let's Talk that just says who they are, what building they're in, who they're reporting to, all these different pieces. But because we've built in these workflows, it's going to generate the proper tickets, and it's going to go to the staff member that works in the building to make sure that a device is prepped. It's going to get incorporated into a script that creates a employee accounts. Once the accounts are created, they can get the licenses. But the key thing is that's all low touch for us, right? So rather than us having to have that business transaction living in an email system, it's actually living in Let's Talk, but integrated with other systems. And for us, there's some custom work that went into that, but more and more, a lot of these things are just automated systems. And then let's just jump to that last example, and then we'll talk a little bit more about this. So another example would be student devices. We have a robust system where we all of our students in our school district, so we have 5,000 or so students. Everyone has a device that they have to get access to, or and our older students take those home. So we have to keep track of those. So it probably doesn't happen in other districts, but our district, sometimes the students lose their devices or don't bring them to schools. I'm sure none of you have ever struggled with that, but the but it's something that happens here. And so it's always hard on webinars because that was a joke, but I'm assuming someone heard that. But so for us, we actually have a whole piece that keeps track of students' devices. Are they returned? Are they not returned? And if they're not returned, an email reminder goes out to the person that's supposed to check in with them. And that sort of helps us keep that system in check without having to, again, send an email to the teacher, email to the principal, email to the family, and sort of keep having to track everything down. Instead, it's an automated system that just allows us to sort of shepherd the task along without having to have a high touch email chain on every single one of these things. One of my themes that I'll say if you talk to me long enough is like, if I could actually get rid of email, I would actually consider it at our district level, because so much of, like, we don't actually want our business operations for human resources or technology living in email inboxes, because it's hard to search. An employee goes on vacation, they get sick, no one knows about it, nothing's getting done. It's really not super helpful for our, when we think about return on investment, that's a lost business transaction, right? It's a lost customer service opportunity. So when these things all live in systems that sort of automate themselves and sort of perpetuate themselves, it allows us to, we still have to monitor it, but it's sort of like a low touch opportunity to do that. So I think we can jump to the next part.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zach, for that. And, as questions are coming up, we'll answer. I think questions are also being received by Sharon. I wanted to just pause for a second and, thank you and your team really extensively. We conducted 60 different sessions. I think 5 or 10 may have been just with Ithaca City, but, about 4 to 5 dozen others across from school districts in other parts of the country to just learn about how they were doing these various key service processes that involve the IT system. And really what Lynn, my colleague Lynn Firsch, is about to show really is then we took all of that and then we obviously added and expanded the Let's Talk platform. So Lynn, go ahead and give us a flavor of what Let's Talk expanded with ITSM and asset management has there.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here with you and get the opportunity to share with you what we've been working on. I'm apologize that my voice doesn't match that excitement, but if my seasonal allergies are any indication, you want to head here to DC for peak cherry blossom in about a week and a half. So hope you can make the trip. So if you're familiar with Let's Talk, and I know most of you are, the typical entry points to Let's Talk have been our tab, the chat bot, our landing pages, where you can see those topics that your community can engage on, and the whole workflow that exists beyond those topics. Here for my IT help desk here in our fake school district, even those custom forms that help you get messages to the right team and respond to them. But in our conversations and our work with IT leaders, we have discovered that there needs to be a little bit more to that experience. And so first thing I'm going to showcase for you is our new customer portal, which allows for an authenticated user session. So here I'm logging in with Google, which is a single sign-on tool that we use, but obviously your single sign-on tool of choice. And today I'm logging in as a teacher, but depending on my credentials, right, I could see a different view of this portal as a parent, as a student, as a district admin, as a staff member, as a school admin. All of that experience is customized based on who I am in the school district. And I know teachers have a lot on their plates, but I have a lot on my plate here as a teacher here in Model Community School District, teaching a lot of different courses, as you see down here in my profile in the lower left-hand corner. So really central to this experience in the customer portal are those integrations, starting with single sign-on, moving on to the SIS and the roster data for me as a teacher, and then looking over here on the right-hand side, my devices. So our asset data coming in here as well to simplify the experience for me when I need IT support. In the middle of the page, we're giving access to some of those other resources that folks may need when they are looking for IT support. So knowledge base articles, chatbot, and this profile of the chatbot can be customized based on who's accessing. So you can have the chatbot trained on different resources for teachers than it is for parents or for students. Encourage you to reach out to your CSM if you don't know about the generative AI chatbot and its different profiles, a really valuable tool there. So then hopping up here, right, I can request support for myself as a teacher, or I can request support for someone in my class. When I hop in here to my class today, I know in my biology class, Lila is in need of support. A nice thing that you'll see here in this customer portal as well are these known issues. So as I'm submitting a ticket either for myself or by proxy for someone else, I can see anything that might be happening in the district that is relevant to me. Maybe I was about to submit a ticket about Canvas and I see that there's already one here and I don't need to submit mine. I can just watch for an update there. But today, Lila here needs some support. You're seeing data's already populating based on those integrations. She needs some hardware support. It's just impacting her. And from the asset details, I can see that all of her devices are listed and I can pick the one that matters. And she has a cracked screen, unfortunately. Extra unfortunate because I'm her mother and I'm gonna have to pay for that. I can add an attachment if I need to and then submit that request. And like it in Let's Talk currently, that's gonna go off to the correct team to support it. And as Zach mentioned, all of those workflows that matter in terms of type of request, location are going to apply so it gets in the right hands as quickly as possible. What's new with the customer portal, if you're familiar with Let's Talk, you know that typically that back and forth with the customer can only happen in their email inbox, right? They get a notification, they reply to it if they need additional support, but now they have an inbox for themselves where they can track the status of any tickets they've submitted. So here I have my tickets and tickets for students that I have submitted. I'm able to click in here and message with the agent if I need to. I can resolve the ticket if I said the Wi-Fi was down and actually it's working now, and I don't want the team to waste their time on that. I can request to resolve it. So that additional tracking here for customers in their customer portal. So moving to the flip side of that, where do all those customers' messages go? They come into Let's Talk, which you should hopefully all be familiar with. You'll see a few things are different, but this experience hasn't changed too much, and you'll be able to navigate it and see the additions that we've added. But you'll see a new icon for anything that's submitted via the customer portal. And if I open this ticket I just submitted for Lila about the cracked screen, you can see this yellow bar at the top is a quick indicator that this was submitted by proxy. So I know this customer is a student and someone else submitted it on their behalf. I, right at the top of the ticket, see the assets assigned to Lila through that asset management integration and can click to see additional details. Other than that, the experience is quite similar. We've added some additional details into the ticket to help you track and report on some of the things that matter in the IT realm. But overall, that experience is very much the same.
Lynn, on
Another
this,
new, yeah.
I think you were going to go show just that. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So another thing that we're adding for IT tickets is this concept of a global ticket. So if 7 folks within the school system all reach out to say that Google Classroom isn't working, those tickets can get combined into one global ticket, and you can respond to them in mass and also publish those to that known issues part of the customer portal. So of course, Lila breaking her laptop screen is not going to be a global ticket, right? That's only affecting Lila. But if I go here in my inbox, there was a global ticket around no Wi-Fi at Carrier Elementary School. So you can see there were 5 tickets linked there. And I can come in here as there are updates, reply to all those folks at once, as well as publish it to the customer portal. So as other people are experiencing this issue at Carrier Elementary School, they know when they log in that the team is already working on it.
And some of our IT leaders probably follow a ITIL framework a little bit more strictly than others do. And in the ITL library, this is called problem management, I think. So essentially collapsing broad issues that affect multiple people into a problem. It's sort of a root problem, if you will. And so just wanted to call that out.
Thank you. So last piece I will bring you over to today is our ITAM solution. And I'm going to, again, log in here. And it's going to bring us into a big old data table, as I like to refer to it, of all of the assets here in Model Community School District or in your district. Really important to this product working is the setup. And as you all know, we have an exceptional implementation team here who will walk you through the process of importing all of your locations, all of your device types, all of your existing asset data, which is really foundational to getting this all set up. So once the asset data is in here, we've broken it into 2 areas: your complex assets, things we think about with a asset tag that you really want to track down to the individual level, and simple assets where it's more about inventory management, knowing where they are and when you need to order more. Within each asset here, I can see additional details about, who the manufacturer is, what funding sources we use to purchase it, how long we've had it, if it's assigned. I can see a link to all the Let's Talk tickets assigned to that asset, a timeline of changes to the asset, and any integration data from the MDM that you're using for that particular asset. I'm also able here to do batch operations. So that one of those workflows that Zach was mentioning too, and students and their devices, getting them to them or collecting them. You are able to use this to do it in one fell swoop, or have teams around the district doing that. So here I can select a storage location. I have my handy dandy scanner, or I could use the mobile app to do this. And as people are bringing me their assets today, I just have a list of tags here on my paper. I can scan them. And as I scan them, they get entered here into the system and unassigned from those students. And here I'm scanning them into a location that only has space for 3 devices. So if I scan a 4th, it's going to prompt me to pick a new location and add those devices. So we offer that both for the check-in process as well as the checkout process. So I can scan a student ID, scan a device, and then it automatically gets assigned to them, and they can go on their merry way. Other things really important here are reporting options. So being able to create views that are aligned with the information you need. So if I need a quick way to see all of my missing assets or things that have been reported stolen, I can create those reports and pull them up easily. Last thing I'll just point here, some built-in views that we have. So you saw by device, but you can also view assets by location and by users. So in particular, this Aaron Alexander fellow, he's a student and somehow has 8 devices assigned to him. I probably want to take a look at that and understand why we have a student with eight devices assigned to them. So just a sneak peek of what we have to offer here with our new ITSM offering and our ITAM offering. I'm going to turn it back to Suhail to wrap us up. And I know Sharon is going to be launching a poll for us, and encourage you to reach out to your CSM if you'd like to schedule a one-on-one meeting.
Thank you, Lynn. I don't think really the 20 minutes or so that we gave you does justice to the amount of time needed to explore the depths of these additions. Several questions have been asked. The one that I'm looking at from you, Walt, is love to show you in great detail the content management system for the knowledge base, and really any other aspects that you wish to drill down into. These products are both available readily. I think summer for us is, you can consider that as having started, frankly. I think when, we're putting this together, we have a superseding decision that says, if you want to start the asset management journey, we're ready now. Our product development actually is a little bit ahead of schedule. If you've used the Let's Talk product, I hope you will allow me a little bit of brag on our team. We build easy to use products. They're intuitive, which doesn't mean that they don't pack complexity to them. When we decided to go on the asset management and service management journey, we significantly expanded the resources that we had in order to develop it. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Service management, asset management are both available to you if you wanted to, start the journey, and certainly take the poll. And I think the right thing to do in order for you to get the full flavor is to work with your account manager and just reach out and just say, you'd like a deep dive into these solutions. What I'd say to you is the amount of automation that's going to be possible, particularly with the advent of AI and all of these, it just boggles my mind. I'll give you just one example, and then I'll see if Sharon has questions. One of the big hurdles or pain points in IT service management is the completion of the original ticket. Somebody tells you a little bit about their problem, but oftentimes the agent has to go back to that person and say, I need this additional information in order really to be able to help you. Well, we can automate that. We can eliminate the agent in the loop. This is back to the cost savings part, fewer people doing more work. Because you're taking the busy work, the machine work, and delegating it to the machine. And so I think the experience for the agent, where they have to ask for those pieces of information that weren't or submitted with the original ticket, a computer can do it, and that's coming. The other interesting thing that happens really is the experience for the customer. I mean, right now, if you look at the ticket that Lynn submitted on behalf of the student, that ticket, where is it a hardware issue, which hardware? Well, we can simplify that. If you just tell me what's broken, I can see if I can figure out which machine you're talking about, because I already know who you are. I know which machines you have. Is it a hardware issue, software issue? Is it an issue that impacts you or others? The generative AI is going to be able to figure that out very soon. We've done this, we've prototyped it, where you can just push a button to talk. Any of you who've used WhatsApp or messengers like that, their beauty and the power is in their simplicity of the interface. And so ultimately, if a teacher or a parent on behalf of a student, or a student needs help on a device or some issue, they can just push to talk on their mobile app. And we have authenticated them. We know who they are. All of the metadata about their ticket is collected. The AI also checks to make sure that it's completed. If not, it prompts and says, I'm missing these pieces of information. Can you just push again and talk? And that then becomes available in form of a text to an agent, the form completed. And really the experience for the customer became easier. The experience for the agent got better. So lots of innovation coming. For the better part of the next 2 years, we expect to be extremely busy taking this and really enhancing it to take it to what we'd consider the AI generation of solutions. Sharon, turn to you if you had any questions that you needed to address.
We got most of them answered. Something I do want to touch on is James had asked, do we integrate highly with the Google Chrome console? And we said, yes, Google, that's so easy for us. What are some other easy ones for us to integrate if people are wanting to get started? Oh, Suhail, I think you're muted. Thank you.
That had to happen once in this webinar. Somebody had to do it. Absolutely. We can get you started with this single sign-on and the identity management integration for all your teachers and staff. And I think we can enable that for all of your Let's Talk. So if a teacher is ever submitting that question that Zach talked about with HR, payroll system, or anything else, it would all automatically come in, and they don't need to type their contact information. So yes, and then you have an authenticated user. I've seen some suggestions that says, hey, can you reduce spam management? And we have a whole spam management solution that we built within Let's Talk. But if you keep it public, somebody with a lot of time to waste, and unfortunately there are people, they can do that. They can still submit tickets and it's spam, or people can start selling you insurance policies on Let's Talk. And that can happen. We have captchas, we can curtail that. But if you do it with a identity management integration like Google, that person is an employee of yours. And all of the 13 things you need to know about them, or maybe just 3 things you need to know about them to provide them not just a good, but an amazing service much more rapidly. Instead of 9 minutes, maybe just in 90 seconds, because you'd have spent 6-7 minutes just researching that data in other systems. So it's just beautiful. It's coming together really well. And so look forward to supporting you all through that. Okay, well, I think we're at time. So Sharon, I'll take your permission to thank Zach. Zach, thank you for the partnership, for the conversation today. Thank you, Lynn, for the presentation, and really to thank our attendees. I'm concluding the webinar, but I'm kicking off the conversation with each of you and your school districts to how really we can better understand your needs and make sure that you have clarity on really what's possible to assist and support you. And grateful for your support and partnership today. Wishing you all a beautiful rest of the week and a beautiful rest of the school year.